There are moments in the lives of those destined for something greater when everything begins to transform. It doesn't happen suddenly, but like a tide that little by little withdraws what is not firmly rooted. Perhaps you've noticed that your bonds, those connections you once considered indispensable, begin to fade away. Welcome to Voyage Inconscient. We will explore together the depths of the psyche, the collective unconscious, and the teachings of Carl Jung. Get ready to discover new dimensions of yourself and the universe around us. It's as if the pieces of the puzzle that once made up your world detach one by one, leaving you with a feeling of emptiness that's hard to fill. This distancing, though unsettling, is not an accident. It's an opportunity, a space designed for you to rediscover your true essence. Accepting it isn't always easy. It's understandable to resist when the relationships that once provided you with security now seem to be fading. Perhaps you've wondered if you've made a mistake, why the affection, support, or closeness you longed for now seems increasingly out of reach. However, the reality is different. This distancing is not a punishment or a sign that something is wrong with you. It's an invitation to pause and reflect. In the silence of solitude, far from external distractions, is where you can truly connect with yourself. Imagine being in a room full of people where conversations, laughter, and noise compete for your attention. It's impossible to hear a whisper amidst that clamor. But when the room empties, when silence settles in, that whisper, though faint, becomes clear. That murmur represents your essence, your deepest truth. It's that part of you that has been there all along but has been overshadowed by expectations, obligations, and the bonds you've built with the outside world. This period of isolation doesn't distance you from others, but rather allows you to get closer to yourself. Often, we seek answers from others, trying to fill our internal voids with affection and company, believing that it will make us feel whole. However, what we long for outside cannot be found there, as it is not something we lack, but something we have forgotten. Isolation, as challenging as it may be, is the fertile ground where that memory can blossom again. It is a space where you can rediscover the fullness that has always resided within you. This process is not simple, as it involves facing aspects of yourself that you may have avoided for a long time. In the midst of the noise and distractions of daily life, it's easy to ignore what hurts, what is missing, or what doesn't fit. However, in solitude, it's impossible to escape it. That emptiness you perceive is not the absence of something external, but a sign that there are internal aspects that need to be acknowledged, accepted, and healed. This process can only take place when you find the courage to be with yourself, without evasions or seeking answers from the outside. You may feel that this distancing is unfair, that you should be surrounded by affection, support, and deep connections. But what if this space is exactly what you need to evolve? What if this period of solitude is, in fact, an opportunity to rediscover your true identity without the influence of others? The roots of a tree are not strengthened on the surface. They sink in the shadows, far from light and company, because it is in that darkness where they find the nutrients necessary to support everything that will grow afterward. The distance from others is not a rejection, but a reorientation. It's as if the universe whispers, "Stop, look within. Everything you need is here." In solitude, immediate answers don't appear, but the right questions do arise. What part of yourself have you ignored? What do you need to leave behind to move forward? What truly makes you feel whole and in harmony, not with the outside, but with yourself? This isolation is a sacred refuge, even though it may not always seem like it. It is a sanctuary where you can free yourself from the masks you've worn, from imposed expectations, and from the bonds that no longer resonate with who you truly are. Here, you can rediscover your essence, that unique spark that cannot be defined or limited by anything or anyone. And when you find it, everything changes, not because the environment transforms, but because you do. It's natural to want to speed up this process and leave isolation quickly. However, growth cannot be rushed. It's like a flower that only blooms when the time is right. You need the exact time and space to unfold your full potential. This stage is not a punishment or a pointless pause. It is a preparation. You are being guided towards something greater, and this isolation is the ground where you are developing the roots that will support your future growth. In this process, you begin to notice that you've never truly been alone. Although external connections may have weakened, the connection with yourself, with your essence, and with the universe has always been present. In this space, you discover that true companionship doesn't come from others, but from your own presence. That relationship with yourself is the foundation upon which all other authentic connections in your life will be built. Do not fear this process or try to rush it. Allow yourself to be in this place, even if it's uncomfortable and uncertain, because this is where the clarity that cannot be found anywhere else arises. It is in this space that you realize that the love, fulfillment, and connection you've always sought externally have actually been within you, waiting to be discovered. When the time is right, the right bonds will reappear in your life. They won't be the same as before because you will have changed. They will be relationships that reflect your authenticity, your essence, and your evolution. In the meantime, this moment is yours. It is an opportunity, a process of preparation. And when you look back, you will understand that this solitude was not a detour, but the path that led you to yourself. Sometimes, the changes that occur inside you are so profound that, though invisible, you can feel that something is transforming. It's not a sudden change, but a gradual adjustment, like the slow movement of tectonic plates that, though imperceptible, has the power to completely alter the surface of your life. This transformation is not only emotional or mental, but also energetic. It is a metamorphosis that happens on levels that are difficult to understand, but whose manifestations are undeniable. If you feel that the people around you no longer understand you, or that the relationships that once gave you meaning now feel heavy, it's because your energy is evolving. This process can create a sense of disconnection. Conversations that used to flow now feel forced. Places where you once felt in harmony now seem foreign. It's as if the world is changing, but in reality, it is you who is transforming. The frequency at which your being vibrates is no longer the same, and everything around you responds to this evolution, sometimes subtly, other times overwhelmingly. It is an inevitable process because it is not a conscious choice, but an essential part of your growth and preparation for something higher. Your energy, that imperceptible force that defines your interaction with the world, is being refined. It's as if the universe is tuning an instrument, adjusting each string to produce a purer melody, more in tune with the essence of who you truly are. Perhaps you've wondered why this transformation doesn't occur easily, why it seems accompanied by so much confusion and difficulty. The truth is that change is never comfortable. You cannot become something new without letting go of what you were, and that detachment is not easy. It's similar to the process of a snake shedding its skin in order to keep growing. It doesn't happen by choice, but by necessity. The old skin can no longer sustain its expansion, and while the process is uncomfortable, it is also unavoidable. You are experiencing your own energetic transformation, leaving behind habits, bonds, and beliefs that can no longer contain the renewed version of yourself that is emerging. It may seem like you are giving up more than you are gaining, but what you are truly releasing is not a loss, but a liberation. Everything that disappears is because it no longer resonates with the frequency you now hold. It's as if your energy is being purified, eliminating the superfluous and leaving only what is genuine and essential. Although this process may seem daunting, it is also deeply liberating because what remains is a more authentic version of yourself, aligned with your inner purpose. Connections may feel like a burden, not because something is wrong with those people, but because they no longer resonate with your evolution. This does not mean you must break all bonds, but it does mean you need to be honest with yourself about what propels you and what holds you back. Sometimes the bravest act is letting go of what no longer contributes to your growth, even if it means walking a solitary path for a time. This energetic shift not only transforms the way you interact with others, but also your relationship with yourself. The thoughts you once accepted without question now challenge you. The emotions you used to avoid now demand to be recognized. It's as if an inner light is illuminating areas of your being that were previously in shadow. Facing these aspects of yourself may be uncomfortable, but it is essential because only by recognizing these shadows can you integrate them, and only by doing so can you move forward. It is important to remember that this process does not have a final endpoint. It is not something that will be completed forever one day, but a continuous cycle of transformation that will lead you to new heights, only to challenge you to change again. Although it may seem exhausting, it is what gives depth and vitality to life. Each stage of this cycle brings you a little closer to your essence, to that truth found at the core of your being. You may wonder how to navigate these changes without feeling overwhelmed, how to move forward without getting lost in the process. The key is not to resist, but to flow with the change. Flowing does not mean surrendering, but trusting that this process, although challenging, is working in your favor. Trusting that each step, even the hardest one, brings you closer to the person you are evolving into. Imagine a river flowing toward the ocean, always in motion. No matter how many obstacles appear along the way, the water always finds a way to move forward. You too are constantly moving toward something greater, and even though the journey may seem uncertain, you can trust that you are being guided in the right direction. There is no need to have all the answers at this moment. It is enough to be willing to take the next step and allow the transformation to occur even if the final destination is still invisible. This process of change is a reminder that you haven't come to remain static. You've come to grow, expand, and become a version of yourself that you may not even be able to imagine at this moment. Though this path may seem solitary, it is also profoundly revealing because in that space of introspection that has opened for you, you are discovering something invaluable: your true inner strength. Over time, you will look back and understand that every challenging situation, every relationship that changed, and every emotion that emerged were part of your evolution. You will understand that this change was not imposed, but a choice, a response to an inner calling. To move forward, there is no need to understand all the details of the process or have every piece in place. What matters is trusting that you are exactly where you need to be, because this change, although difficult, is the path to a more authentic and free existence. In this process, you will discover that you are not losing anything significant. On the contrary, you are reclaiming the essence of who you truly are. On the path of those destined for something greater, there comes a moment when everything seems to stop, not because they are not progressing, but because the methods that used to guide them no longer serve in the same way. It's as if the tools they once used to navigate their life have become ineffective, leaving them facing an unknown territory that cannot be approached with past strategies. This space of uncertainty, though challenging, is not an obstacle. It is a reminder that they are being prepared for a purpose beyond the ordinary, a mission that requires a renewed approach. When you are destined for something significant, distractions become unnecessary burdens. relationships, commitments, and external expectations, though valuable at another time, begin to feel like limitations, not because they are negative, but because they are no longer aligned with a new path that is unfolding. In this context, solitude is not a punishment, but an opportunity. It is a blank canvas, waiting to be painted with the colors of your truth rather than the patterns others have imposed on your life. It's natural to resist this process, as the desire for connection and belonging is inherent in all of us. We long to be part of something and to find stability in our relationships, but in this process of transformation, the most important thing is to discover stability within yourself. What happens when those bonds begin to pull you away from your purpose? What happens when life, in its wisdom, intervenes to remind you that your mission is too significant to share with those who are not yet ready to accompany you? This is the point where many feel disoriented, because they don't see what is really happening. You are being freed from unnecessary burdens in order to move forward more lightly. Imagine a ship about to set sail into unknown waters. Before departure, it is essential to let go of the superfluous, of anything that could slow down the journey. This process may seem like a loss, even painful, as it involves leaving behind things that were once valuable. However, it is also an act of preparation, a sign that you are ready to embark on a journey that demands all your attention and energy. This is how this process of isolation works, not as deprivation, but as an opportunity for refinement. The mission you are embracing is not small. It is a force that pushes you to step out of your comfort zone, to leave behind structures that provided security but also kept you stagnant. It is a reminder that you didn't come to live an ordinary life. You are here to make an impact, to create something that goes beyond your own existence, and that kind of mission cannot be fulfilled if your energy is scattered in too many directions. You may wonder how to reconcile this calling with your longing for connection, with that human need to love and be loved. There is no simple answer, because the love you seek is not found in conventional relationships. At this point in your journey, love is not an external pursuit, but an internal state. It is the force that propels you, that sustains you and guides you, even when the path is uncertain. This love does not depend on external factors. It is the bond you create with yourself and with the purpose you carry within. The mission carries a weight that not everyone is prepared to bear, not because they lack something, but because their time has not yet come. This is the challenge of those who have been called, learning to walk in solitude, not as an act of isolation, but as an expression of trust. Trust that the path will be revealed and that truly meaningful connections will emerge at the precise moment. In the meantime, this stage of apparent solitude is not an emptiness, but a space full of potential, an interval to align every part of your being with the mission you have come to fulfill. When everything seems to stop, when relationships change and direction becomes uncertain, it is not a sign of failure, but of redirection. It's as if life is clearing your path to allow you to focus on what's essential. And what's essential is not always immediately visible. It is a whisper, an intuition, a sense that something profound is in progress. This space that has opened before you is not meant to be filled with distractions, but to be used as a laboratory where you can explore, make mistakes, learn, and evolve. It is natural to feel fear in this process, the fear of losing what you have, the fear of not finding what you long for, the fear of feeling alone in a world that seems designed for constant connection. Fear is not an adversary, but a sign that you are crossing a threshold, leaving behind the familiar to enter the unknown. It is in that unexplored territory where true transformation arises, not because destiny does it for you, but because in that space you discover your true potential. Purpose is not a fixed destination or a goal to be reached and then rest. It is a constant journey, a series of daily decisions that align you with the deepest truth of your being. This path is not for everyone, but your role is not to follow the crowd, but to open new paths and show what is possible. By listening to your calling and following it, even when it means walking in solitude for a while, you will understand that this isolation has been a gift, not a punishment. Every bond that faded, every door that closed, and every moment of uncertainty were part of your preparation. You were not losing anything. You were gaining the clarity and focus necessary to carry out your mission. And when the time is right, when you are ready, the right connections will return to your life, not as distractions, but as travel companions who understand your purpose. In this moment, you do not need to have all the answers or see the big picture. You only need to take the next step and trust that this journey, though solitary for now, is leading you exactly to the place where you need to be. And when you arrive, you will not be the same. You will be stronger, more conscious, more aligned with your true essence, because this isolation is not an outcome, but the beginning of something much more transcendental. When you experience a deep transformation in your being, everything around you begins to reflect that internal change. Relationships that once seemed to fit perfectly may start to feel uncomfortable, as if they no longer fit with the new version of you. This does not mean that those connections were wrong, but that they no longer vibrate in harmony with your growth. This mismatch is not a failure. It is a manifestation of evolution, as if your essence, in expanding, is surpassing the boundaries that once contained it. At this point, many people feel they are losing something valuable, but what seems like a loss is actually a liberation. The bonds that dissolve and the connections that weaken do not disappear due to a lack of success, but because their cycle has come to an end, as they no longer resonate with the frequency you now occupy. Although this process may be painful, it also represents an opportunity to make space and allow something new and more authentic to enter your life. Imagine a river changing its course, finding a wider path aligned with its natural flow. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our reflections and analyses on the work of Carl Jung. Join our community and start your own voyage inconscient towards self-awareness and transformation. The water seems to overflow without a defined direction, but over time it finds a new channel that reflects its true path. Similarly, when your energy changes, everything that no longer flows with you begins to fall away. While it may seem like a break, it is actually a deeper integration of your true self, because it's not possible to move forward if you remain attached to a version of yourself that has stayed in the past. It's easy to cling to the familiar, to those relationships that once provided you with security, even when you feel that they no longer fit in your life. But how many times have you stayed in a place or a relationship out of fear of the emptiness that might remain if you walked away? How many times have you ignored that internal sense of transformation just because it was more comfortable to stay in known? This is the real challenge of growth. Learning to let go, even when you have no certainty about what will come next. The mismatch you perceive in your relationships is not a rejection, but a sign that you are evolving, that you are leaving behind patterns and dynamics that no longer serve a purpose in your life. While this process may generate loneliness, it is also a reminder that your existence is not designed for permanence, but for continuous transformation. This is the natural flow of life, and resisting it only prolongs the suffering. At times, the people you care about cannot accompany you in this process, not because they don't want to, but because their paths are different from yours, and that's okay. There is no need to cling to anyone, because the bonds that truly matter will find a way to remain present. The space that opens up in your life is not an emptiness, but an opportunity. A reminder that the connections that truly nourish you are those that allow you to be who you are, without demands or conditions. You may question whether you're making mistakes, whether the fact that these relationships are changing means you're not enough or that you should act differently. However, this process is not an evaluation of your worth. It is an adjustment, a necessary balance to align with the most genuine version of yourself. That authenticity, though at certain moments it may seem lonely, is the starting point from which you can cultivate the most authentic and meaningful bonds. Imagine a garden that needs to be pruned in order to bloom more strongly. The pruned branches are not useless. They serve their purpose at the right time. But if they are not left behind, they hinder the emergence of new opportunities. Relationships follow a similar pattern. Those that are no longer in tune with you are not negative or wrong. They simply have completed their cycle. By letting them go, you not only foster your own development, but also that of those involved, because genuine love does not hold on, it liberates. It is crucial to understand that this mismatch does not mean you will never experience deep connections again. On the contrary, it indicates that you are creating the space necessary for something more meaningful, more in alignment with your current self. However, before those new relationships can bloom, it is essential to go through this process of release, not as an act of distancing, but as a gesture of respect for yourself. By fully accepting yourself, you allow others to do the same. This path is not linear. There will be days when you feel serenity in the face of these changes, and others when loneliness will feel overwhelming. However, in both circumstances, you are moving forward, because each step toward your true essence brings you closer to a more authentic and fulfilling existence. The quality of your life is not measured by the number of connections, but by the authenticity of them. When relationships evolve, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism or blaming others. However, this process is not about blame, but about growth. It's about understanding the importance of letting go of what no longer resonates with you, not because there are flaws, but because you are in constant transformation towards something higher. Although facing this growth may be challenging, it represents one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. You may feel at this moment that you are losing more than you are gaining, but when you look back, you will understand that every connection that disappeared, every relationship that took a different path, and every moment of solitude were crucial elements of your evolution. It wasn't about rejection, but about liberation, and in that openness, you found the space necessary to grow, blossom, and become the best version of yourself. There's no need to seek out bonds to fill the void. The only essential thing is to trust that this mismatch, though uncomfortable, is part of a greater process, guided by your own essence and truth. When the connections that truly belong to your path finally appear, it will not be by chance or lack. They will be a reflection of the person you have transformed into, of the energy you now emit, and of the authenticity you have embraced as your own. This mismatch is, in fact, a gift, a sign that you are evolving, shedding everything that no longer resonates in harmony with you. Although the path may seem uncertain, you must trust that it leads to something much more significant. Because this is not a final point, but the beginning of a new phase in which you will be fully aligned with your true essence. When everything around you starts to fade, you are confronted with an inevitable reality. You are left alone with yourself, with no external distractions. And then a fundamental question arises: what remains when everything else disappears? The answer does not come immediately, but little by little, you begin to discover something that has always been present. You. Not the version that seeks approval, nor the one that adapts to fit in, but the most genuine and serene expression, the one that doesn't need words to know that it is enough. This period of isolation does not represent a void, but a reunion with your essence, beyond the appearances and expectations you have carried. At first, silence may seem overwhelming, as if you don't know what to do with so much space. However, this silence is not an obstacle, but a companion that invites you to explore the deepest corners of your being, those aspects you have left aside, because the noise of the world has always been louder. Now, without that noise, you have the opportunity to listen clearly. During this process, you realize that you have spent much of your life searching outside for what has always been within you. You have tried to find love, acceptance, and purpose in others, believing that they could fill that space. However, in this moment of solitude, you discover that you cannot find outside what you have not first recognized inside of you. The affection you long for, the connection you desire, cannot come from others unless they have first bloomed within you, because self-love is the foundation upon which all relationships are built. It's easy to fall into the illusion of thinking that someone else can complete you. Society has ingrained the idea that loneliness is a problem that must be solved, not a stage that deserves to be lived. However, this time in isolation does not represent a lack, but an opportunity. It is a space that life has granted you so that you can learn to feel complete by yourself and discover that you don't need anyone else to feel enough, because you always have been. Imagine for a moment what you would do if you were absolutely certain that you are already whole just as you are. What decisions would you make if you weren't trying to fill a void, but simply expressing yourself from a state of fullness? This is the power of learning to be with yourself. It's not about achieving perfection, but embracing acceptance. It's about looking at your own shadows and acknowledging them, not because they are pleasant, but because they are part of you. It's understanding that you don't need to be someone different from who you already are. This process is not easy. It requires courage. It demands facing your thoughts, your fears, without escaping or seeking distractions. However, in that courage, you find something that no external relationship can provide you: serenity. Not the tranquility that comes from having everything under control, but the one that arises from self-confidence, even when the environment is uncertain. True peace is not the absence of chaos, but inner security. Discovering your wholeness has a profound impact. When you recognize yourself as enough, you stop seeking from others what already resides within you. Your bonds change as they cease to be a necessity and become a choice. You no longer look for someone to rescue you, validate you, or make you feel loved, because that love has already been found within yourself. This does not mean giving up on relationships, but rather experiencing them from a perspective of freedom. You are not with someone out of need, but by your own choice. This change transforms not only the way you interact with others, but also your relationship with yourself. You begin to see yourself with new eyes, and the criticisms you once directed at yourself lose their influence. The unreachable expectations you used to impose on yourself begin to fade, not because you've stopped trying, but because you understand that you don't need to achieve perfection to deserve love and acceptance. That worth does not come from the outside. It has always been within you, waiting to be recognized. In this space, you begin to realize that solitude is not something to fear, but something to embrace, because in it, you find clarity. You find the strength to let go of what no longer contributes to your life, and the wisdom to open yourself to what truly matters. This process does not happen overnight. It is a journey that requires patience and compassion towards oneself. However, each step brings you closer to the essence of who you are. There is no final point on this path. You will always be learning, transforming, and evolving. At each stage, you discover something new, something that reminds you that you are stronger, more resilient, and more whole than you ever imagined. And that strength does not come from others, but from your own inner being. It is the result of facing yourself and emerging with a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be you. When you reach this perspective, you realize that isolation was not a punishment, but a preparation. That every moment of solitude and every night of uncertainty were essential steps to get to the present. From this place, you can look forward with renewed confidence. Not because you have all the answers, but because you know that regardless of what happens, you can trust yourself to find the right direction. This is not the conclusion of your journey, but a turning point. It is the moment when you stop searching outside for what has always been inside you. It is when you understand that you don't need anyone to complete you because you are already whole. And from this sense of fullness, you can begin to build a life that is not only filled with external connections, but also with the most meaningful connection of all, the one you have with yourself. The love that arises from this process is not fleeting or conditional. It is a love that remains, that does not depend on circumstances or others' opinions. It is a love that sustains, that empowers, and that guides. From this internal connection, you can face any obstacle because you have understood that in your essence, you are already enough. Not because someone else told you, but because you have discovered it for yourself. The path of those who follow their purpose has never been easy. As you move forward, you understand that solitude, that space which initially seemed like a void, is actually a phase of a process designed to protect you in the deepest part of your being. There is a spark that never goes out, a light that needs to be cultivated before it is shared with the world. This time of introspection is not a withdrawal, but a refuge, a space where you can strengthen yourself and integrate every aspect of you before presenting yourself as your most authentic version. Transformation does not happen amidst the noise. It requires stillness. It needs an environment where you can confront yourself without the distractions of the external world. In this space, life protects you, not because it doubts your ability, but because it knows that everything has its time. Now is a moment of preparation. There is no need to resist or hurry. It is simply a matter of trusting that this process has a purpose, even when clarity is not present. Sometimes, solitude seems like a test, as if life wants to assess your endurance. However, it is not an evaluation, but an act of care. It is life providing you with the necessary time to grow, heal, and become the person you are meant to be. It is not possible to illuminate others without first learning to hold your own light in the darkness. This space, which may seem empty, is actually the place where you learn to do so. When you look at a clear sky, you see stars that seem distant from each other, but what you don't perceive is the invisible web that connects them, the energy that interconnects and keeps them in harmony. This is how this process operates. Even though you may feel disconnected, you are not alone. You are supported by something greater, something that is not always easy to explain, but that you can perceive deep within yourself. That connection remains intact, even in the most difficult moments. It has always been there and will always remain. Solitude does not mark the end of the journey, but an essential stage to assimilate every transformation, every lesson, and every emerging facet of your being. When life takes you away from the familiar, it is not for you to get lost, but for you to rediscover yourself. It is a reminder that before sharing your light with the world, you must learn to keep it within yourself, because that clarity does not come from the outside. It has always been within you, waiting for the moment when you decide to recognize it. Reflect on this. What is it that you truly want to offer the world? Is it something driven by a need for recognition? Or does it come from the most genuine part of your being, the one that knows you have something unique to offer? This period of introspection is an opportunity to find the answer. It is a time to release what does not define you, to leave behind expectations, demands, and the external influences that have tried to shape your identity. It is a reminder that in your most authentic form, you are already enough. It is not possible to rush this process. Transformation follows its own rhythm, like the dawn. You cannot hurry it, but when it finally arrives, it illuminates everything around it. Similarly, each day in this apparent isolation is a preparation, an accumulation of light that will eventually manifest in ways you cannot even imagine today. It is natural to wonder when this process will end, when you will reach the next stage, but the truth is that there is no final destination. There is no specific point of arrival, but a constant evolution, a succession of moments that invite you to dive deeper, to expand, to discover more about your true self and your potential. This journey is not a place to reach, but a path to walk at every moment. When you finally emerge from this period of introspection, you will not be the same. Something within you will have changed, something perceptible to others, though they may not be able to express it precisely. It will not be a superficial change, but a profound transformation, serenity, a clarity, a strength that will remain steadfast in the face of any adversity. That strength does not come from your external achievements, but from the inner work you have done during this time of reflection. It is the result of having faced your own shadows, having gone through solitude, and having found inner balance. The connections you have longed for have not vanished. They are simply waiting for the right moment to manifest. When they finally come, they will be different from the ones before. They will be more genuine, more in tune with who you are in this moment. They will no longer be based on need, but on freedom. They will not be defined by what you can gain, but by what you are capable of sharing. And that is what gives value to this process, not because it leads you to a specific destination, but because it transforms you into someone who moves forward with purpose and clarity. Solitude, therefore, is not an obstacle, but a bridge. It does not represent a pause, but a rebirth. It is a reminder that even in the most isolated moments, you are still being guided, protected, and sustained by a higher force. That force is not outside of you, but is part of your essence. It is the constant connection you have always had with the universe, that energy that flows through everything and reaffirms that you are never truly alone. There is no need to know exactly what the future will be like. Immediate answers are not required. The only thing that matters is trusting in this moment, in this space, and in this process, because it is here where true transformation happens, where the inner light begins to shine more brightly. And when the time is right, you will be prepared, not because you have reached a final point, but because you will have learned to walk your path with the certainty that everything you need already resides within you. This is just part of the journey. Your exploration of the unconscious continues. Click on the next video to continue discovering the teachings and secrets that Carl Jung left for humanity. See you in the next episode on Unconscious Journey.